This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by the good folks over at Curaleaf, one of the nation's fastest growing multi-state cannabis operators with 44 local dispensaries, 12 cultivation sites, and 11 processing facilities, all serving more than 150,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Learn more about Curaleaf over at curaleaf.com, spelled C-U-R-A-L-E-A-F. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, May 28th, 2019, and you're tuned in to episode 730 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We kick off this week's news in Iowa, where late last week, Republican Governor Kim Reynolds vetoed a bill that would have expanded the state's medical marijuana program. House File 732 would have replaced a limit of THC content of 3% for medical cannabis products with a monthly 25-gram total of THC per patient, which is a metric not used by any other medical cannabis state. Reynolds cited that provision specifically in a statement accompanying her veto of the bill, which would have also allowed physicians' assistants and registered nurse practitioners to become medical cannabis recommending agents and would have expanded the definition of pain to include more potential patients. Matt Lamers over at Marijuana Business Daily grabs our second top story today with a pickup of talk out of Canada of the nation's possible impending legal cannabis oversupply glut. Canada made adult use marijuana legal back in October and has mostly seen demand outstrip supply within the new legal cannabis market, but there are a lot of new cultivation licenses being handed out and just as much new capacity being built by current cultivators. Scotia Bank, one of Canada's top banking institutions, is warning in a new report that the export market will not be large enough to absorb the projected oversupply. The report also projects that total legal sales in Canada this year could be just under 570,000 pounds, up 400% from last year's total. There's a lot more here in this report, so maybe not a bad story to open up in full. As we always do, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Today's final top story is a piece by Naomi Martin over in the Boston Globe looking at concerns among legal cannabis farmers in Massachusetts over the potential for losing large cannabis crops to pest-related outbreaks. Massachusetts has one of the strongest sets of rules and regulations for what marijuana cultivators can use in terms of pesticides and fungicides, which some farmers say are increasing their chances of experiencing catastrophic crop losses. This is an incredibly complex issue with no easy answers anywhere, so I'd suggest you open this one up for the full read to get better acquainted with the overall storyline. This is something that will pop up in other states. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's fastest growing multi-state cannabis operators with 44 local dispensaries, 12 cultivation sites, and 11 processing facilities, all serving more than 150,000 registered medical marijuana patients. Swing over to curaleaf.com to learn more about the Veterans Cannabis Project, which Curaleaf is proud to support through in-store displays and donations. You can open up vetscp.org for more on the Veterans Cannabis Project and curaleaf.com to find a map of the closest Curaleaf shop to you, because there's no better way to experience the Curaleaf difference than by making a visit to one of their shops yourself. One last time, that's curaleaf.com, spelled C-U-R-A-L-E-A-F. All right, time for the blitz. On Thursday, Linda Jackson, director of the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, sent a message to all state agencies that utilize her department's crime labs that they are currently unable to differentiate between legal CBD and non-legal THC types of cannabis, and that her lab was also incapable of determining the relative percentage of THC content in any given sample, which is an issue in a state where THC content determines a product's legality. Jackson said that her lab will be able to run more sophisticated marijuana tests later this summer. Pop over to Washington's NBC4 for more on this one. The Canna blog has an insightful look at a problematic issue in California revolving around the state's mandated track and trace program, which blocks licensed providers from doing any kind of transactional business with cannabis products if they are unable to access Metric, the state's track and trace system. That could become a huge and costly issue for a licensed provider if they were locked out of the system for any number of reasons, ranging from nefarious hackers to outage problems caused by the state's tracking system itself. This is probably something you haven't thought of much, but is certainly something that you should. Another one I'd dive into fully today. David Downs over at Leafly has a good click-worthy story up about Kern County, California, which on Friday officially closed down the 28 medical marijuana dispensaries that had been up and running under a years-long grandfathered ordinance. As a result, tens of thousands of medical patients in the county will now have to drive as many as 80 miles one way to visit the closest medical dispensary. Kern County has just under 840,000 residents in all and is about as large as the state of New Jersey. The Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, just updated its official policy pertaining to hemp-derived CBD oil and any marijuana-related drug approved by the FDA. According to the TSA's website, quote, products/medications that contain hemp-derived CBD or are approved by the FDA are legal as long as it is produced within the regulations defined by the law under the Agriculture Improvement Act 2018, unquote. Bringing a bottle of water or an overly large tube of toothpaste through security remains verboten. On Friday, the Congressional Budget Office released a report that projects that if the federal government were to lift restrictions on banks dealing with state legal marijuana businesses, a total of $4 million in savings would be realized over a 10-year period. The CBO's report was generated for a banking reform bill introduced by Colorado Congressional Representative Earl Perlmutter. Swing over to Marijuana Moment for more on this one. Jumping back to Massachusetts, we have an exclusive scoop by the Daily Hampshire Gazette looking at employment contracts that a medical marijuana company is making its employees sign, clearing the company from any kind of responsibility or financial liability should the employee be arrested due to the fact that cannabis is federally illegal. As writer Dusty Christensen points out, state legal cannabis companies often formally disclose to their employees that marijuana is federally illegal, but it's not standard to contractually leave employees stranded should they run into federal law enforcement issues. The situation is potentially even more dodgy because the multi-state cannabis operator in question, Holistic Industries LLC, wouldn't answer the question of whether it forces its higher-level executives to also sign a contract freeing the company from responsibility. It's a good assumption whenever a corporation declines to answer a question that the answer is probably the worst option on the table for that company. In response, a spokesperson for Holistic Industries said they were, quote, actively reviewing our hiring materials to make sure that they clearly reflect our total commitment to our employees, unquote. Kind of sounds like it already does. And finally for today, late last week in California, state senators passed a proposed bill that would allow veterinarians to formally recommend medical marijuana for use by pets. Last year, the state passed a bill that lets vets talk about medical cannabis use as a treatment option with their patients' humans, and the bill passed on Thursday goes a step further by allowing them to recommend medical cannabis in the same way medical doctors do with their human patients. The bill now heads over to the state assembly for consideration there. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Cureleaf, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the lesser strengths of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.